All right, so good morning or good afternoon, everyone. And in this video, don't mind if there's any background noise. Again, I am recording this at home, and so everyone's living their lives in the background as I am recording this video. Okay, so today we're going to be learning about simple interest. Okay, so before I explain why this is so important, first you need to know what simple interest is. So simple interest is money earned on a savings account or an investment, which can be a car, a house, or etc. It can also be money you pay for borrowing money or taking a loan. Okay, so the reason why simple interest is so important is because it's going to occur in your life, especially when you're older and you are an adult. Okay, you're going to be learning about dealing with simple interest or dealing with interest in general when you have to when you're making an investment. So when you're buying a house or a car or just a really big investment or paying for your college education, interest can be used in those situations. When you have a savings account, sometimes when you put money into your savings account, your bank account will tell you, oh, you're going to be earning this percent of interest for the amount of money you keep in your savings account. And interest is a good thing when you are earning that money and you're earning that money back and you're earning the interest back from that from your savings account. Now, interest can also be on the flip side when you're borrowing money or you're taking a loan out for money. Interest can be attached. So sometimes what will happen is, let's say you borrow money from the bank, and the bank will say, okay, you can borrow $1,000 from us, but in order for you to make you in order for the bank to get you to pay the money back faster, they're going to tell you, okay, you can borrow this $1,000, but you're going to have to also pay for interest, meaning that they're going to tack on a certain percentage that you are expected to pay back as well. So let's say they say, okay, we're going to loan you this $1,000, but you have 50% interest. So every year that you don't pay back this $1,000, you're going to have to add another $500. So let's say you don't pay back the money in 1 year, if there's a 50% interest, you're going to be paying back $1,500. Now, granted, there is never a case where there is 50% interest. That's just way too high. And if that's the case, like, don't take that deal and walk away from it. Okay, so basically, all of this to say is that simple interest is something that is going to occur in your later years in your life. It's definitely when you're an adult. And it's really important for you to learn because it deals with money. Again, when you're older, you're going to be dealing with a lot of money. In order for you to make the correct decisions about your money, you're going to need to know how to find the simple interest when you're buying a car, making an investment, when you're buying a house, or when you are borrowing money from the bank or whatever. You need to know how to find simple interest so you know what you're getting yourself into and how much money you're actually going to be paying or earning. Okay, so all that to say, let's find out, how do we find simple interest? So simple interest, the formula for simple interest equals the principal amount times the annual interest, which is the percent usually, and of course, because it's a percent, we never just multiply by percent. The percent needs to be turned into you know what it's going to be, needs to be turned into a decimal. Okay, so principal times annual interest, in decimal form, times the time in years. So interest equals P, principal, times the annual interest, and we're going to call that R, times T. Okay, and that's for time. All right, so, and I'm thinking about it, I'm wondering why is it R, but that's what it says in my notes here, but it's P times R times T. Okay, so, but just remember that when you're looking at a problem, when you're trying to figure out simple interest, you need to just figure out what the principal amount is, the annual interest, which is your percentage, times the amount of time that interest is going to be put on. So this will all make sense once you see an example. Okay, so for example, let's say you put $100 in a savings account. The account earns, okay, so you're earning interest. The account earns 6% simple interest per year. So every year that you have $100 in your savings account, the account will earn 6% interest. So find the interest earned after 2 years. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is identify what's the principal amount, what's our annual interest percentage, and the amount of time that the interest is going to be applied. So for a principal amount, we can already tell just by reading the example. You put $100 in your savings account. Okay, so that's the principal amount. So $100. Okay, now we need to multiply that by the annual interest in decimal form. So the account earns 6% simple interest per year. So we found our interest, it's 6%, but we're not going to just multiply 100 times 6. It needs to be in decimal form. So again, if you remember, when we turn our percents into decimal form, we need to move the decimal 2 place values to the left. So we're going to move that decimal once and move it again. So we got to put a 0 here. So it's 0 and 6 hundredths, or 0.06, or 0 and 6 hundredths. So we're going to put our decimal. Okay, so far we have our formula. We have 100, which is our principal amount, times their annual interest, which is 0 and 6 hundredths, or 0.06, times the amount of time that the interest will be earned. So in this last part of the problem, it says find the interest earned after how many years? It says 2. So we're going to find the interest times 2. Okay, so we have all our parts. So now all we gotta do is multiply it all together. Okay, so 100 times 0.06. This is easy. 0, 6 times 1 is 6. I'm not even going to bother doing the zeros, because if we just multiply all these zeros and we just add it, we're still going to have 600. But this is something that I've noticed. Once we're done with this, you still remember we're multiplying with decimals. We still have to count the amount of place values after the decimal. So the amount of place values, or the amount of numbers after the decimal, is 2. We have one number here and one number here. So we got to move our decimal 2 places right here. So it's going to just be 6.00, or just 6. Okay, so 100 times 0.06 is just 6. What do you know? Okay, and for some of you, you might have already known that it's just 6, because if you haven't figured it out yet, if you multiply a decimal by 100, all you're doing is just moving the decimal. You're moving the decimal 2 places to the right. That's it. That's all you're doing when you're multiplying by 100. Okay, so if you already knew that, then you could have done this mentally in your head. Okay, so 100 times 0.06 is 6. Now we're going to multiply it by the amount of time, which is 2. And if you know your multiplication table, 6 times 2 is 12. So the amount of money earned after 2 years is $12, because your interest was 6%. Okay, so now the question asks, what will your new savings account balance be in 2 years, including interest? Okay, so what will your new savings account balance be in 2 years, including interest? So balance meaning the amount of money that's in your savings account. Okay, so after 2 years, let's say you don't touch the money, you don't do anything with the savings account, which is what you're supposed to do anyway. If you make a savings account, just quick tip for life, if you make it a savings account, you do not touch it. You do not do anything with it. You have it there to make sure that you're saving money for when you need to save up for a house, or you're saving up for a car, or just if there's something, you never know, life kind of just throws you curveballs sometimes, and you might need that money for an emergency fund. So you don't touch a savings account. Okay, so What will your new savings account balance be in 2 years, including your interest? All you have to do is just take the principal amount, which is $100, plus our interest earned, which was $12. Mental math, you should be able to do that, is $112. So that's the amount that you've earned after 2 years. So if you look at this, finding the simple interest is actually really, really easy. It's just multiplication. You're just multiplying 3 numbers together in order to find the amount of money earned from simple interest in a problem. So as long as you know how to multiply and multiply with decimals, you should not have a hard time doing this. It's actually really, really, really simple. You're just multiplying. Okay, so, and again, this is something you have to know how to do. Like, absolutely have to know how to do, just for life purposes. Okay, so now that you've finished these notes, what you need to do now, you should have on your desk this worksheet, simple interest word problems. Okay, so what you're going to do, listen carefully, you're going to take this worksheet, you finished your notes already, and this is all the information you need to know in order to do this worksheet. So you're going to do the first problem on your own. So once you've done this first problem on your own, you're going to, I will be walking around and I'll be stamping it off to check off on it. But please, again, do not wait for me to stamp off your problem. Once you finish this first problem, go ahead and move on to the next video. And I will be walking around checking off this problem. But move on to the next video where I'll be showing you how you do this problem.